of Kittens and Broken Things. Chapter 22. Thane smiled at her concession to his suggestion, pleased to be, in theory, forgiven, and permitted to remain in her crew and presence. Now began the more difficult aspect of the intended path. He set down his cup and replied, "Allow me to set that course. I will speak to Counselor Vicarian. The persona of Shepard is necessary, but the denial of Kara's existence may no longer be required. It may have been necessary for you to conceal your nature entirely years ago. But you may find that the value of your accomplishments will now color people's opinions of you." "Yeah, people are afraid of me. It's funny. If I screw up, I swear people don't believe it happened, or they're too afraid to mention it. I've done a good job at making people believe I'd shoot them." She smiled at him. "Except with you." "I am grateful for the opportunity to not be shot. You may relax your military bearing, or you may not, depending on what suits you. Appearing to fall in love may also allow you further latitude socially, as those in love may tend to soften." "So, are Commander Shepard and Thane Krios in love? Or is she using him for sex?" She immediately buried her head in her hands, her blush rebounding even though she'd been attempting to approach comfortable moments before. So much for flippancy. He took the opportunity to be honest, to insist. He stood from his chair, walked to her, and offered his hand. He stood until she lifted her head from her hands and looked at him. His face was intent, not ardent, but still invested with how he felt about her. She swallowed hard, reached her hand out to his, and he pulled her to her feet. He dropped her hand and tilted her chin up with his fingertip when she would not look at him, and she started to tremble as he said, "I have been struck twice in my life upon first seeing a woman. Irikah, and you. I am pledged to Irikah. I love her. I will devote myself to her. I find the person that you are, the whole person, mind and spirit, to be someone I do not wish to resist. I will resist because you require it, because you have shown me I must. But if I were unpledged and you were willing, nothing would stop me from convincing you to belong to me. I would insist that you fall. I believe you think that I am being kind or supportive, that I only found Commander Shepard to my taste. That would be incomplete understanding. I am in love with you. I will never act upon it. But it will not be an act that Thane Krios is in love with Commander Shepard. Love is in your nature. Allow that love to be displayed in my presence, and nobody will doubt that Commander Shepard loves Thane Krios." She had been jittery enough with the theory, but the practice was going to be impossible. Her hands flew to her mouth as she said, You're evil. You just need a brandy snifter and a little dog." "I have met people that match that description. Many of them are dead, Siha." Her lips trembled with humor and some admitted terror, but she believed him. This was not an elaborate trap. He was trying to help. He was also aware of his allure and would enjoy flexing She tried to just look at him, but his words echoed and her humor and comfort melted away. But she had what she wanted. He accepted that he was pledged and she was unwilling, and this was still terrible. It took incremental mercy on her. She was panicked, and her wide green eyes made him want to pass his fingers over her brow to soothe them, take her in his arms. No. His smile was gentle. This is exactly what you must not do when a lover looks at you longingly. She leaned harder on the table and waved her hand. Okay, it's my first day as a fake lover. Great on a curve. You look as though you wish to run. I do. It's just... the kitchen is really nice, and I have a million questions. There will be time for all questions. I will answer them. However, you must demonstrate that you will allow me to touch you without fainting or running. She closed her eyes tightly. Maybe don't touch me? He leaned in closer and her eyes flew open. She startled back. I can't. He smiled and watched her, thinking he'd be well compensated with the strange joy of watching Commander Shepard blush and stammer. It was satisfying to him personally, but would not do before a camera. He asked her, "Were you involved with Counselor Vicarian before your death?" Her head jerked up. What? No. I mean, he was interested, but I was terrified. He bonded to me within the first few minutes of seeing me alive. I didn't really have a choice. I mean, I'm not sorry, but I can't. No sex, and I haven't ever been involved with anybody before. Thane blinked, a rush of near blinding anger at Vicarian's presumption before feeling an odd kinship. He'd have done the same with this woman alive and in front of him. He was presuming upon her kindness and trust, had been forgiven himself for unforgivable invasion. He asked her carefully, "You did not have a choice then. Do you want a choice now?" She shook her head vehemently. No, I'm in love with him. He knows my name, but not that I remember Mindwar, not about my parents. I can't tell him. If he knew everything, he'd want me out of the line of fire permanently, and bond makes that stronger. He wants me safe. I'm making it difficult for him to protect me. I told him, after the war, if we live. That was admirable and understandable, and he was still concerned. Holding off a Turian in full bloom of new bond, being that Turian? He would ask later. My main romantic skill seems to be running away, or kissing. I'm getting good at kissing. So, reverie, at least. Bond would progress, had progressed. With her retroactive consent and Vicarian's single-minded focus, that was not something he could question. Unconsummated or not, Vicarian's ardor would never lessen, and her promise would stand as long as she lived. He observed, "As you wish to do now. Running away, not kissing." She nodded fervently. as I desperately wish to do now. You have made it possible to discover your deception because you are not thorough in your deception. There are trails of flour and streaks of frosting, and you squeak at times, and although you can often disguise your tendency to blush as anger, there is very little chance several intelligent, observant people who live in close quarters together on a starship, or reporters, will believe I am involved with you if Commander Shepard shrieks and runs away when I look at her or touch her. She looked down at flawless, lovely tile and beautifully tailored boots and said, "Maybe they'll just say I'm in love." No, they will not. They will say I abuse you. Maybe I'm into that. No, you are not. Look at me. She tried, but everything was too much, and she started to cry, her shoulders slumping and her head falling forward. He had expected this, tried to avoid it, but he knew from watching her private moments that her tears were easy and expressive. He had made her unbearably vulnerable. Perhaps it would not be possible to feign a relationship. Her responses were too honest. She was closer to the root of what she felt than he was, and he could possibly not comprehend what it would cost her. There had really been no way to get through this, would be no way through her inner life, her sanctuary, without tears. He accepted them as likely from her as her bright smile, both things suppressed in company and loosed randomly and often in solitude. She was overset, and he lifted her in his arms, carried her back to the sunken living room with a deep, comfortable couch, sat and held her while she cried. He did not put his hands on her skin. He had remained gloved. She tried to navigate through what had gotten her here, trying to comprehend his vision of a perfect situation where he didn't give her a heart attack every second. She landed in bleary helplessness. She needed him. She didn't want to need him, but she needed him. She wanted him. This, whatever it was, some bizarre compromise to let her cry. Someone that knew her. Someone that understood her, wasn't pressing in on her to change her nature. He had been the biggest threat to her. She'd known it. And now her defense was assured because he would enjoy turning away curious or persistent people the same way he enjoyed making her blush. It also made her crushingly guilty that this is exactly what Garrus wanted to be with her, and she couldn't give it to him. She cried until she got a headache. He held her carefully, loosely, support and patience. She tried to give him back some of the honesty he'd given her, though his was calm and assured, and her honesty was not. She said, "I'm sorry. You deserve better." Thane appreciated the momentary ego boost, one he'd never required in the past, some reflection of reassurance that she wasn't impervious to him. Impervious was a new concept, a new experience, one he would need to embrace, to embody. Proximity to her was connection to hope, reminder of the promises he had made and broken, that he could gather pieces, not lose or smash them further. He could not think of her as a lover, did not truly think of her as a commander, did not mistake the distinction between childlike and childish, could not think of her as a daughter or a sister. She defied categorization, and he had no easy rules to use in human or Drell culture to guide him. To describe her as a friend was not enough. As for him deserving better, he told her, that is kind of you to say. Still, you will resist any and all attempts at deserving. She smiled. I will. Thank you. He tilted his head to touch her hair. You are welcome, Siha. I am aware that the community on Mindwar did not drink alcohol or take recreational drugs. Do you? No. Will my venom be a concern, philosophically? No, you're a person, not a drug. I am a person who has been engineered to be influential in order to gain access. Sex, violence, persuasion, and coercion are essential to my trade. Venom has been my path to those things often. She took a moment and watched him glow, felt that she trusted him. You got here without it. Thane, you could have shot me, killed me, betrayed me. You got me to walk willingly into your lair, and I missed my chance to run. Then you promised me this beautiful place is really my lair. I'm going with it. He tilted his head back and laughed. His arms tightened around her in affection. She was trying to accept what had happened, that he did not bear the threat of exposure any longer, that it was okay to be attracted to him, that there was a reason he glowed, that he would help her. When his laughter stopped, he said, I warn you because it is potentially addictive and has a hypnotic component. This is my venom. Become comfortable with my touch. He believed it was best they did this with her not trying to stand. She laughed again, nerves and anticipation. There was a rush of almost battle-like adrenaline, her curiosity surging, and a dawning sense of possible progress on several fronts washing through her. He removed his gloves, held her in his lap, an arm around her back to support her. Her hand was on her thigh, and he placed his palm carefully over it. To appear to be lovers, you should anticipate, appreciate my touch, accept it as your due. You will see or hear me coming. I will give you vocal or physical cues. I will not surprise or startle you intentionally. Touch me as you feel appropriate in return. Remember, it is to protect you, not entice you. His words came slow, flowing, and mesmerizing, with the obvious and startling effect of venom beginning to move from his skin through hers. His words sank in with her relaxation, acceptance, and attention on him, on where their skin touched, on the lesson of his words, which became her focus. Soft light began to spark off his skin wherever she looked. Not the synesthesia of vibration or glow, because it lacked the emotional importance she associated with it. It was a new experience, encompassing and comforting. She listened as he told her. Kara means dear. There is a Drell word that means dear to me. Lasam. When I call you that, know you are under my protection. I will do you no harm. I will bring you no harm. My arm is my own, as you require. My fidelity belongs to Irikah. My hope belongs to Koyat. You are Lasam, someone dear, not of my blood, not of my people, but the person who gave me back my arm, my spirit, my fidelity, and my hope. His venom had a fast effect. She was relaxed in the state of Tiramit. In an average Drell, Tiramit would be mild intoxication, enhancement of emotional starting conditions, mildly hallucinatory. With his enhanced venom, it amplified those effects and added a component of more insidious suggestibility, resulting in trance or memory loss if he chose. He could cultivate and enhance whatever emotional state suited his needs. It would be much stronger if she kissed him or licked at his skin. But that he would not expose her to. His venom's more addictive properties caused hunger, and then over time, withdrawal. Her eyes were wide, open and vulnerable. She would be prone to believe his words, and he would make them true for her. She would be suggestible, but not so far that he could tell her to forget completely, and he did not intend that for her. If at all possible, he would deal in truths. The telling of truths would cause her no alarm if he primed her for that experience, and the conversation would carry no emotional significance that could create alarm. Truths would resemble something tiresomely repetitive and so well known as to raise no suspicion or alarm in disclosure, quickly forgotten as trivial. It would be as though she were asked to tell him the sky on earth were blue. She would only be telling him what was widely known, and she would want him to be enlightened by her nature and the flow of the venom in her blood. When he attempted to brush his fingers over her throat, she did her best to lose her balance and fall off, even though his arm was around her. I'm a little, okay, a lot ticklish. Ease your heart, Listen. She covered her eyes with a hand. I'll try. You're handsome and kind, and I like your voice. And I'm not running away. That's got to count for something. He had no idea as yet how to bring this skittish, ticklish, heart-pounding woman to an understanding of how to mimic the appearance of casual acceptance of physical touch. He could suggest but not compel over the stretches of time demanded in unpredictable circumstances when they would be in public. He could prime her for public appearances, but not spontaneous moments. She could not detect his heart hammering. She was set by her nature, and he by his. He reached out, took her hand again with his, and told her, I shall try to approach you while you're facing away from witnesses. I may need to cover your mouth to prevent squeaking. Think it'll work? He thought he, at least, would be able to keep up all appearances of being in love with her. And in the end, it was his opinion that mattered on the subject. Some people had determined that Shepard would be no danger to them. That was, of course, her fear. Kara was inherently harmless, and that threatened Shepard's authority. Harmless was not a word that applied to him. He would territorially claim her as his. He would create more than bluff and warning. He would be a living consequence. Although he would not share her bed, he would share a place in her mind where no one else had gone. Not her parents, not her bondmate. He felt diminishing guilt at stealing her truths, because, as she had said, innocence was infinite in value, and it was hunted. If Thane had not been there, if he had not threatened Orbiston, would Orbiston have harmed her at the collector base? He was certain enough in that possibility that his guilt sank, replaced by purpose. He told her, "It will work, listen. We will make it so. I wish to ask you a question, and I know you will answer honestly." More suggestion. His venom would make it difficult for her to be suspicious or to lie. "You speak in your cabin to yourself, and you mentioned Counselor Vicarian demanding sex. I wish for you to explain, please. You need not be nervous or worried. I promise you, Lissam, no harm will come from your words. Only understanding. The caveat being that no harm to her would come from her words. Depending on those words, Vicarian was another matter. She swallowed, brows drawn from the sustaining venom call in his voice. Inclined to trust him to begin with, vulnerable and floating. She wanted to tell him. He's a bonded Turian. I'm an inexperienced human. I told him first, no kissing, and he agreed until he convinced me to kiss him. I want to. He isn't taking. He isn't demanding. He's patient and he's creative. It's my fault. I can't tell him no. I mean, I can, but I can't. Thane was reassured with the explanation. So, desire on both sides and a Turian wishing to claim his mate fully, but held back by her small finger, as Thane was. More kinship. That is good, Lissam. If you need strength, you come to me for it. Why are you afraid to have sex? Her eyes closed, thinking, sorting through the thick venom as thoughts pressed up against her mind at his call. He wanted to give up the counselorship. He wanted to come back on the Normandy. I love him, but I can't give him everything. Not yet. I'd never be able to leave his side if I promised him everything. I know he wants to keep me safe, and once I give him everything, I'll want that because he wants that. I want to love like my parents did. I do. Love like my parents did. If he asks me the right question in reverie, that leads to me telling him I love him, and that love's bigger than everything else. Bigger than the galaxy or the council or Shepard. And that when he wants to protect me, I want him to be able to protect me. I don't want to lie to him. I want to give him every truth. But I still have to be Shepard. I still have to hide Kara. Everyone else needs him as counselor. I need him to get my job done. Shepard does. And Kara was not valuable enough to resurrect so she could run away and abandon the problems everyone faces. Kara is valuable enough, Lassam. That's sweet. I want to tell you how not true that is, but it's hard. It's not true, but you are kind. If Garrus is on the Normandy, if I have sex, so far I only kiss him, and I have asked him to be quiet, to not talk when I'm under reverie, because I'd give him anything he asked. He'd ask me to leave command. He'd ask me to follow him somewhere safe. And I'd have my heaven. He's my heaven, and I want to go. Thane thought for a detached and spinning moment of giving her what she wanted, telling her to go, to leave with her lover, to not look back, and that if the rest of us died, we deserve it. If he could have a day, a week, a month with Irikah, could anything stop him from choosing her? He could do it. Right now. Turn Kara's head to his. Kiss her until Tyramid bore the brand of command. Hold her face in his hands, with her lips warm from his, and tell her that two people, amid the trillions, should not be held responsible for the outcome of a war that had been waged cycle after cycle. Tell her to take her happiness. Do not throw away your heaven. She would tell Vicarian. He would provide the impetus and method. But he had to ask the more important question. What do you want, Lassam? I want to win. I want to defeat the Reapers. I want to. Thane, you talked about earning your eternity. I want to earn mine. I can be Shepard, and I can win. Then I can let her go and be myself. I'll go with him anywhere, anything he wants. I'll be happy with him anywhere. It would be my heaven. I won't have a heaven if I run away, if I know every day I've condemned how many people to hell because I didn't have faith. I couldn't wait because I was afraid. We can both have what we want. I just can't let him protect me as much as he would, as he will, until I'm done. I believe I can do it. I have to try. Then you shall. And you fear he would overwhelm you? Take you beyond your will? Yes. Then I promise you now, Lassam, if he were to do such a thing, I would find you. I would return you to yourself. You are not alone. I will be your will in this and in other things, if you cannot. All you must do is tell me what it is you require, and it shall be done. Do not fear. That's a big promise. It will stand for as long as I live. What is your opinion of Spectre Orbiston? He doesn't like me. He's good. He's Garrus's friend, and he doesn't like me. I made his life difficult our first time out. So she had no idea of Orbiston's devotion to her bondmate. Orbiston was as much Garrus's friend as Thane was Garrus. They all needed new words. You speak to Counselor Vicarian each day. When will you speak to him today? I'm on the Citadel. I'll see him on his hours off. He should... What do we say to him? Do you believe he will answer a request from me to speak to him? Yes. Give me his contact. Allow me, Lassam. Rest. She gave him Garrus's contact, closed her eyes at his suggestion. He had stolen truths and determined Vicarian's fate. Now Thane knew what he needed to know, and beyond that would act in her best interest, whether or not it set him against Vicarian. He could not fault the men for wanting to take her away, but he honored Kara's truth, and not Vicarian's. He carried her upstairs to the room intended to be hers, laid her on the counterpane, and draped a blanket over her, taking a moment to tuck it in around her. He went back downstairs, took a breath, and requested a link, coded as private.
Yes?
Counselor Vicarian, this is Thane Krios. There are some things I would like to discuss with you. At your convenience, but if at all possible, if you could meet at my location using these instructions. Commander Shepard is with me. There is no danger, but I would like to speak to you before the situation escalates in any way. The method of transport provided should ensure privacy.
I'll be right there.
He was true to his word, Thane spending the time considering his approach. There was more need for utility than stealth. Wherever possible, he would opt for truth. Shortly after, Thane opened the back entrance. Vicarian entered, nodding a perfunctory greeting and looking for Kara. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Commander Shepard is upstairs sleeping.
Is she all right?
Yes. I told her I wished to speak to you. She is resting. There is no danger. There are decisions that require your consent. I wished to arrange them.
What decisions?
Please, this way. Would you care for something to drink?
No, thank you.
As you wish. A seat. Garrus chose one in the living room. Thane sat as far from him as possible. I owe you a great debt. The life of my son and whatever time I am able to spend with him. I owe Commander Shepard a great debt, my continued life and the opportunity to do something meaningful with it. It came to my attention that the rumor of you being bonded to Commander Shepard is true. I wish to shield you both from whatever negative political consequences that may bring. I have obtained this apartment in hopes that she would find it comfortable and a refuge while on the Citadel. The entrance you used to arrive should provide you with discretion. It would be my intent that you both be able to spend time together here without interruption.
How did this come to your attention?
Information is my business. I became interested in Commander Shepard. Intrigued. I sought to convince her to become involved with me. When she was unavailable, I wished to know why. I found everything about her that I could, and my methods were intrusive. This is in part my apology to her for violating her privacy.
Intrusive? How?
I used illegal means to gather information about her past, and illegal means to invade her quarters.
Garrus smiled and leaned slightly forward. And I should not kill you right now because?
You have that right. She has that right. If you choose to do so, I would not defend myself. I wish to speak to you directly and not ask her to explain on my behalf.
And she's upstairs, not tied up or hostage.
She is upstairs sleeping. If you wish to assure yourself of that, please do so. Garrus seemed to be unable to resist doing that, losing interest in Thane entirely, moving up the stairs at a two-at-a-time pace.
He found her, leaned down and ruffled her hair. Limieth, everything's okay? Thane Krios is making his introductions and I'm deciding whether or not to kill him. What do you think?
Don't kill him.
You sure? He said he wouldn't fight back. It would be easy.
No, definitely don't kill him. I'm going with you. Garrus picked her up and carried her back down. I told you someone would find out. Yeah. Look who's guilty now.
Stop being reasonable.
None of this is reasonable.
I believe you.
Garrus sat back down in the same location, Kara held in his lap, his hands rearranging the blanket around her. To Thane's eyes, he appeared gentle, with no anger. Garrus crossed his forearms around her.
She told me I can't kill you, so continue.
As I owe you both a debt I cannot repay, I offer this apartment and a plausible social shield. If Commander Shepard appears in public with me as her escort, we could distract attention from your relationship. She and I could travel to and from this apartment, and I could protect her from press or other attempted suitors. Counselor Vicarian, you could use the concealed entrance. I also extend to you my willingness to deal with any attempts at blackmail that reach your office. Simply tell me which threats are made, and by whom, and they will cease to be made.
That's very generous, and I'm going on record as saying I hate this idea.
But you don't have a better one. It solves problems.
It creates more of them.
No, it doesn't.
You want me to watch the news as camera crews follow you around as you go dancing or out to dinner, and I'm not supposed to murder someone? The someone sitting right there? No personal offense, Krios, but if you touch my bondmate, I will want to kill you. I want to kill you now.
I told you that you couldn't. Counselor Vicarian, Commander Shepard is a woman of absolutes. She is in love with you. I am, through my actions and choices, unsuited to, in fact, disqualified, as someone she would consider as a potential lover. I wish to guard her in battle and protect her from intrusion into her private life. She has inspired me to wish to protect her. The circumstances of your lives and your bond can change. Someday you can be together, if the political landscape changes, or if the war is won and you wish to retire from public life. My circumstances, my past, my persona will not change. Regardless of whether or not you existed, she would not allow herself to be involved with me. You can reject my offer, can in fact kill me. No rejecting! No killing! The required element is trust. I am aware that I do not deserve trust, and it would be difficult to give. I have vowed my arm. I have granted my spirit. She believes it would ease her life, give her more time with you, lessen her concerns and yours so you could have more time together. I am a distraction, nothing more. You're a friend.
Garrus said as though they hadn't heard him. I really, really don't like this.
But you don't have a better solution.
How about he doesn't touch you?
I have a further concern. I am assuming that Spectre Orbiston is aware that you are bonded.
Yes.
His loyalty to you, Counselor Vicarian, would be problematic if he believes that Commander Shepard has betrayed your bond. I would suggest informing him of the deception. It would be best if it came from you. He is suspicious of us both. I have asked him in strong terms to exhibit more respect toward Commander Shepard, but it would be best if you gained his understanding.
Garrus said with his eyes narrowing. He hasn't been respectful.
He's a Spectre, Garrus. He doesn't want to take orders from me. He has not been respectful.
Now Garrus turned to Kara. And you didn't tell me?
Because it's not required that he be my best friend. He's your best friend. He can speak to you freely. He's your independent eyes and ears on the ship. You needed and still need him as an external viewpoint. I wasn't going to take that from you. When we didn't speak, I was certain you were checking in with him to get updates. Weren't you?
Yes.
I do not wish to strain loyalties. I would prefer that we all worked together, but you wanting to kill me, in essence, will translate to Spectre Orbiston wanting to kill both Commander Shepard and myself, out of loyalty to you.
Garrus saw Thane's emphatic stare, the slight emphasis on the word loyalty, the implied knowledge that Thane knew Russ was in love with Garrus. Oh, fuck, that's what was going on. Garrus said quietly, I'll take care of it.
As you wish. Questions of command staffing are not within my power to determine, and I do not wish to antagonize him further.
How much have you antagonized him?
He considers me a mercenary building up to cutting her throat. I made a personal threat that is effective to control his behavior, but is reprehensible in nature. I would never have executed the threat, but I felt I would do him harm if he expressed further disrespect in my presence.
Garrus tilted his head back. I like this even less. While we're being honest, what was it?
I could not understand why Spectre Orbiston was disapproving of Commander Shepard, not enough to explain his disagreement. Thane looked at Kara. Garrus looked at Kara. He disagreed often.
He what? Disagreed how?
Garrus, I told you I gave him a bad day. He didn't follow the listen the first time directive, believes me to be reckless, and argued with me on our first mission, wanted to evacuate Omega, and I pushed forward. I thought he was going to try to kill me. He's excellent at his job. He just snorts and rolls his eyes a lot, and as long as he takes down his target, I don't find his level of disrespect to be enough to remove him from service. He's like Rex.
And you didn't tell me.
No, I didn't tell you. What were you gonna do? Ask a Spectre in his own right to be nice to me?
Yes, of course I would. I would have at least asked why.
Thane would prefer to not lay the matter bare, but it was necessary at this point. The Carrion had included Kara in this conversation. Thane had hoped to speak to Vicarian about this privately, but at this point could not risk sending Vicarian in unprepared about the virulence of the threat. Counselor, respect is in essence what I asked of him, but as I had no leverage or influence personally, I am afraid I threatened you. I promised him that if he did not stop expressing his obvious disgust at Commander Shepard's authority, I would make certain that you experienced political difficulty. Specific political difficulty.
Garrus tilted his head back. Oh, fuck. No. No!
What? Thane addressed Kara. Spectre Orbiston is in love with Counselor Vicarian, and has been since Counselor Vicarian rescued him at a young age from torture and abuse. I told Spectre Orbiston that if he did not show respect to you, as you deserved, I would begin a campaign of rumors that Spectre Orbiston was the man to whom Counselor Vicarian bonded. I informed him that if he did any damage to you or to me, I would ensure that Counselor Vicarian would experience excessive damage as a result. It was effective. He is an excellent squad mate. He stays just on the far side of insubordination, and it could be explained as dislike or disagreement, but it goes deeper than that. I believe had I not been there at the collector ship, he might have done you harm. At the least, questioned and delayed your order to have his ship turned over to EDI. Garrus stared, white-lipped. You... both of you... How could you do that to him? I apologize. I sought to understand his motivations, and I believe I do. I was concerned that I would be forced to do him harm. I believe that no matter how brilliant you are, he will remain suspicious for personal reasons, particularly if you appear to be influenced by me.
How could I? Because I couldn't go with you. He has other accomplishments beyond being attracted to me.
She closed her eyes. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And he's jealous and angry at me. I can see exactly why. He thinks I'm using you. Oh, no. Oh, I'm so sorry. It is not your fault.
No, it isn't. It's mine. I'm sorry. I'll talk to him.
If he wants to leave, I completely understand. I suggested that he leave. He did not wish to go.
Garrus held up a hand. I'll talk to him.
Please, talk to him now.
Garrus stood up, lifted her with him, and said, I will. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding and difficulty. It's my fault and not his. I miscalculated.
It'll be okay. He's a good man. Please relay my apologies.
Garrus growled in frustration and took her back upstairs, put her back on the bed where he'd gotten her and tucked her back in. He straddled her, looking down at her from a height, shook his head and said, I'm sorry, Lemia.
She stroked his mandibles. It's all right. I'm a big girl.
He smiled. That is untrue. That I can't protect you is killing me.
You are protecting me every day. I promise you, I love you. We'll figure it out.
He lowered his body to hers, lowered his mouth and kissed her, both hungry, desperate for reassurance, for hope, for each other. He stayed longer than he intended, but tore himself away. I'll fix it. I'll be back. Stay here.
She smiled, curled to her side in reverie bliss, and nodded. I promise.
He walked back downstairs, Thane having not moved, his face unreadable. Garrus said, Perhaps someday I'll be able to thank you properly. Right now, I'm still at the death threats stage.
As am I, Counselor Vicarian. I had hoped to conduct that conversation in private. There are further things I wish to discuss with you privately, when it is possible.
Garrus rubbed his eyes and said, Yeah, all right. I can see the need for it. Right now, I have to go do something excruciating.
Do you require assistance?
She told me I couldn't kill you. That includes not letting Russ do it either. No.
As you wish.